Just remind everyone to turn off their devices or to put them on silent mode, please. Do we have any apologies? No, thank you. I'll just flag that we're expecting some students from Urban Bank State School. I think they'll be coming in a few minutes, so I'll give them a welcome when they come in. Could I ask everyone to be upstanding, please? I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we meet on today and pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. We'll now observe a minute's silence as a mark of respect for the members of our community who have recently passed. We wish their family and friends peace and comfort during this challenging time. Thank you. That brings us to item 6, councillors. Declarations of any interest by councillors or senior council officers. Councillor Billney.
Yes, through the chair. I wish to inform the meeting that I have a prescribed conflict of interest in item 11.2, being the material change of use for intensive animal husbandry, free-range chicken farm egg production on lot 363 NR 1058 Barter Road, Middlebrook, MCU/0015. I was invited to the property by the applicants to gain an understanding of the proposal and was unaware that an impact assessable application was being assessed by officers. This has given rise to the prescribed conflict of interest as this council now becomes the assessment manager. I do actually humbly apologise to the applicant for this oversight. As a result of the prescribed conflict of interest, I will leave the meeting whilst this is being discussed and decision made by council.
Thanks, Councillor Billney. Any other declarations, councillors? No, thank you. Item 7, confirmation of the minutes. Could I have a mover and a seconder that the ordinary meeting minutes of the 24th of April be received and accepted as a true and accurate record? Councillor Lang moving. Councillor Vardy seconding. Those in favour? Carried, thank you. Item 8, business arising from those minutes of the 24th of April. We've got up on the screen there. Councillor Billney.
Yes,
does that adequately answer your question?
Yes, I did receive the email with the information that's provided on the screen, so yeah, and I'm okay with that.
Thank you. That was the only one you had, Jackie? Yeah, any matters arising from the floor on those minutes of 24 April? Thank you.
Yep.
councillors, ladies and gentlemen, I'd just like to welcome the students from the Irvine Bank State School, years 3 to year 6, and their teachers. So thank you very much for coming to our council meeting this morning. We hope you enjoy it. Okay, councillors, I'll take the opportunity to invite Mr. Drew Parker from Tablelands Q Sports to come up and talk to item 12.1.
Thanks to Council for giving us the time. We thank the Mayor for his letter of support for the grant application to build a new facility, in which you confirmed alignment with a key priority in the TRC corporate plan to support a community which is active, inclusive, connected and empowered. Your offer of TRC support validated our proposal and formed the basis for planning and grant applications. Appreciated. As councillors and our new CEO, you have the unenviable role of trying to balance progress with the realities of a growing population, aging infrastructure, and the legacy of duplication caused by amalgamation. All that set against competing demands on a limited budget. Thank you for tackling what so many of us choose to avoid. To make the best decisions, you clearly need to be adequately informed. The Billiards Club is acutely aware of the consequences of council decisions taken without tabling all details. After over 90 years in a purpose-built and community-funded facility, we find ourselves homeless without so much as a discussion. In our centenary year, we hope our council asks questions before making decisions. The 12.1 report officially opens a conversation that is 4 years in the making, but does it provide you enough information to make an informed decision? In the absence of both substantive discussion and a formal submission, we haven't actually made a submission to CPR by the partners. Can we really expect the staff to produce a comprehensive and conclusive report, or should you treat it as a positive first step on which to move forwards together? Given the scope of use across ages, abilities, ethnicities, and different forms of Q sports, does what is proposed really fit in a single use definition, or is it better described as multi-use? Without a cost-benefit analysis, do you councillors really have a handle on what benefits the proposal might have? None of us like the trends we see in Mareeba, and I'm sure engaging disadvantaged youth is a priority to prevent the same happening here in Atherton and our other towns. What will that cost, and what form will that action take? Our population is growing and aging, yet asking questions of councillors and staff, nobody's been able to give me an example of a single investment by council in aged care facilities, as in recreational facilities, in the past 5 to 10 years. Skateboard parks, bike tracks, walking trails may suit some. We have an aging population. What are we doing about them? The positive intergenerational interaction, the positives of intergenerational interaction are well known, and they benefit both ends of the age spectrum. Would it not be worth promoting something that offers this interaction around a common interest. We understand you've discussed Kirai Hall. We have many questions. We hope you do too. Will this allow the men's shed in Atherton who have expressed interest in using the facility we proposed, will they drive out to Kirai? I don't know. Would both youth and aged engage there, together or separately? With people with disabilities, it costs them to access services. Will they be prepared to spend money traveling to Kirai? Has it been discussed with the Kirai community? If a facility was here in Atherton, school children could walk to it after school to engage in coaching and other things. Would parents be prepared to drive them out to Kirai? How else would they get there? And would it be secure enough to allow installation of computer-aided training equipment that we proposed for training of juniors and others? Many people that are aged visit Atherton as part of their weekly schedule. They come shopping, they come to the library, and as a social benefit, they may engage in an activity. Would they go out to Kirai as a separate trip? All of those are questions that I think need to be explored to determine whether Kirai will give full value to what we're proposing. The report submitted for 12.1 recommends the council doesn't support a request for a greenfield site from the clubs, citing misalignment with TRC's current strategic direction, and critically, a greenfield site would add to the TRC asset liability portfolio. We accept that, we understand that. But is that asset liability challenge a total handbrake that stops all development within the TRC footprint? Exceptions will always exist. Without a cost-benefit analysis that incorporates both whole of life and the social value to the community across ages, ethnic, ability landscapes, are you sure that what we're proposing doesn't justify a deeper look before you wipe out greenfield site options? We wanted to fill you all with enthusiasm by discussing all sorts of things. I had a presentation that I was going to give you, but then we were told the agenda focus had changed on Tuesday. So we're sort of on the hop here. We wanted to talk to you about the pool table that's just been installed in the Malanda High School. Ravenshoe is expressing interest in doing the same. And interestingly, the billiards club membership is largely older males. Many of them have started putting their hand up and offering to help coaching in the high school. There's progress around Councillor Bilney's STEPS program for disadvantaged youth in Malanda in the Scouts Hall. We've been discussing this with Julie, the coordinator for Youth Justice. She's really keen to get involved. Will she be involved in Kirai? I don't know. We've got interest from the state bodies of 8 Ball, which is Q Sports parent association, and Snooker, which is the Queensland Billiards and Snooker Association. They're prepared to talk about and are interested in relocating one of their state level competitions to Atherton on an annual basis. Everything is in the southeast at the moment. We could capture that in future. It's not a short-term goal, but it's certainly there. We'd like to we wanted to tell you about the new training aids for coaching, and to stress that there are people that have played up on the tableland and started their careers and been qualified through the systems here that have ended up at national, state, national and international level playing. There are pathways open. We'd like to explore those. So instead of presenting that, I'll put a bright shirt on. This is a Q Sports shirt, and these are the sponsors locally amongst business that get in behind us. We've got 6 photos on the machine if you're interested, but I'll leave that to the chair to determine whether they come up. I take my hat off to you all for doing what you do. It's not an easy task. It's most often thankless. But I do hope that you conclude that our proposal has enough merit to justify investing staff time to fully assess and maximize the benefits of the community before you wipe out any option. We're certainly prepared to talk about Kirrai. We'd like you to keep greenfield site options on the table until such time as you understand fully what is potentially lost or not taken advantage of by closing that door. Thank you. If you can go to number 1, that'd probably be best. So Billiards Club was formed in 25. The Itchen Historical Society tells us we're the oldest club in Malanda. This is our centenary year. Table Line Q Sports currently functions out of licensed premises. We can't take school children in there. We can only do so much in there during licensed hours or opening hours. And it's in an environment that is restrictive to a lot of what we want to do. Junior coaching is one of them. We have a coach who's available, but the facility to actually coach is limited. Next, please. The high school have got a table. If Ravenshoe follow suit, I can tell you Aston will be under pressure to do the same. Next, please. We talk about the training. With a computer, we can project using the equipment, we can project a task on a table so that people can visualize what you're talking about. When you say cut that ball into the pocket and your cue ball will end up over there, they can actually visualize it and they can repeat it until such time as they get the hang of it. But that fixed equipment is not something we can put in the international club or in the Malanda pub. That's something that needs a dedicated facility for. Next, please. And the table that the billiards club has, apart from anything else, it weighs just under 1.5 tons. It was made in 1926. It's the only table that we are aware of in community hands in North Queensland. And prior to us removing it from the Malanda School of Arts, it was the only playable table north of Charter Towers. We'd like to put it back into use. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, we'll move along to item 10, the mayoral minute, and then I'll move a procedural motion to bring Table Line Q Sports forward. I'll deliver my mayoral minute. Budget preparations for the 2025-2026 financial year are well developed. We have been working towards planning a sustainable future for our community, balancing critical infrastructure investments and risks with livability, service levels and affordability for our ratepayers. It will be Council's most challenging budget yet, as we bring estimates for the replacement of critical community infrastructure onto the books by way of our 10-year capital works program and long-term budget. This includes the Atherton Sewerage Treatment Plant, the Yungaburra Sewerage Treatment Plant, and the Atherton Water Security Plant. The combined estimates for the delivery of these 3 critical water and sewerage projects alone are in excess of $100 million in 2025 dollars. And these costs will start to impact the next financial year and the financial years that follow that. Unfortunately, this doesn't mean our usual costs fall away. Council must still maintain just shy of $900 million in assets, including hundreds of buildings, pipes, roads, and other infrastructure, as well as providing an affordable level of service. Council is actively looking at strategies to assist to meet these significant financial demands, including divesting underutilised assets to build up our cash reserves and therefore our borrowing capacity. Many of our strategies have beneficial flow-on effects, such as making more vacant land available to develop housing, which is in very short supply, just to name one. Thanks, councillors. I'll move that, and I'll ask councillors to support that mayoral minute. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Okay, councillors, what we will do now, I'll move a procedural motion that we suspend the standing orders to allow item 12.1, community project request FNQ Q Sports Centre Tableland Q Sports, to be dealt with as the first item of business, and then the agenda will resume its normal order. So those councillors in favour of setting aside the standing orders so we can bring this matter forward? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, so that brings us to item 12.1, FNQ Q Sports Centre. Shane, would you like to talk to that? Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, councillors. The report provides the overview of the requests submitted and review process to date. The Tablelands Regional Council officers would like to thank Tablelands Q Sports and Malanda Billiards for their time submitting the request. The request is for a greenfield site on which to build the proposed new building with accessible car parking and amenities. Two of the asset management problems currently faced by Tablelands Regional Council are a surplus of community building assets and poor utilization of these existing assets. This results in the delivery of service being at a higher cost for the community. TRC recognizes that owning and maintaining single-purpose facilities is not a financially viable option and does not support the efficient use of its limited resources. TRC's 10-year arrangements also provide for favorable terms of occupation, which is ultimately subsidized by the community through general rates revenue. While there may be a desire from some community groups to build new, this is not a sustainable option at this time. Through the review of the request, it is the view of TRC's officers that this request does not align with Council's adopted asset management and strategic direction on community buildings. It is not in the public interest to continue to develop new facilities when TRC's existing asset portfolio needs to be carefully managed to ensure its long-term sustainability. As such, the officer's recommendation is that Council decline Tablelands Q Sports and Malanda Billiards Club requests for consideration by councillors for a greenfield site on which to build the proposed facility, and encourage the club to work with council officers to review the suitability of existing Tablelands Regional Council community buildings to accommodate the club. The report is presented to council, and Mr. Mayor, may we open the floor for questions?
Thank you. Councillors, questions for Shane? Councillor Billney.
Through the chair. Shane, I've got two questions for you. First one, how many greenfield sites were actually investigated? The report only sort of says about 3 locations from what I can establish.
Through the chair.
So councillors, through the chair, just for context around this an investigation of green sites. Initially, when the club requested a facility, it was through our tenure process and asking for a facility. Subsequently, after that, when the facility hasn't become available or wasn't appropriate for use, discussions started around a greenfield site through the CPR process, flagging that a CPR has not been raised yet because we're still in the preliminary stage of having discussions with council and having a look at what land's available. Having said that, to answer your question, councillor, my understanding is there's been 3 sites, to my knowledge, that have been looked at, but they have not come back to council yet because we need to understand whether council will support a green site.
Okay, thank you. The second question, as per Drew's dictation, talked about the social benefit. Is there a way we can measure that at all? Is there a formula that we measure those benefits? Like, as you know, we understand the financial costs, whole of life costs, but yeah, the social side is an intangible that, you know.
Through the chair, it is difficult to measure the social benefits of most clubs. What we can provide is the utilisation figures, depending on whether events are held, what types of events are held. With any sporting club, there are absolutely social benefits too, you know, around social inclusion, teamship. There is a lot to understanding social return on investment. It's not just about utilisation though.
Thank you.
Councillors, any more questions for, yes, Councillor Barty?
Just regarding the recommendation, if it is accepted today and the club does look at existing sites and that works out to not be suitable and that a greenfield site is the only option, this can be revisited, is that correct? You can come back to council as a greenfield option?
Through the chair, I'm not quite sure. If council makes a resolution, we can always bring something back. I'm not sure what the answer to that is. If there's a resolution on the books from council.
I suppose my feeling is that, yeah, if the group does look at existing sites and every, like, public consultation, everything like that is done and it's not suitable and the group is still focused on a greenfield site, will that come back as an option?
So
I'm happy to speak to that. Look, it's a matter for councillors to consider. Obviously, we had a conversation as part of our council information session. So my understanding is that would represent a different approach to what was discussed in that session.
And I suppose my other question is if the group does accept one of the existing sites and moves in and it's not suitable, like if it's just a temporary arrangement, is that also an option to have a try at something and see if it does work?
Through the chair, we would look at the asset and its suitability and ensure that it's fit for purpose, so there could be discussions of modifications to the building to suit it. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillors, do we have any more questions for officers? Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Barty's moving. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Spanos seconding. Would you like to talk to that, Councillor Barty, or do you want to reserve?
No, that's it.
Councillor Kaji.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to move a procedural motion that we suspend our standing orders to allow for robust discussion on this matter.
Can I just clarify, do you mean confidential?
No, just robust discussion as opposed to your turn, his turn, or whatever. Or only having, you know, we're talking about changing our way we do our meetings. You know, I'm just not sure what where we're going to end up with that. So, for this particular matter, I'd like the standing orders suspended so that we can talk freely and openly, and a number of times is what we think necessary to try and get a result here.
So we've currently got a seconded, so we've got a formal motion on the table. So so we should deal with that motion. So I'm looking at our standing order 21. It really doesn't allow for setting aside that motion just to have a robust conversation. So I think the debate part is the robust conversation.
So long as there's no restrictions to our debate.
Well, each councillor gets to have their say, but you get to have one say unless councillor Barty would like to write a reply as the mover of the motion.
There may be through other discussions that other things pop up that a councillor might not have thought of and might want a second or a third say. So that's why I'm asking for the thing to be suspended.
That's no different from any other item, councillor Cardew. So we've been trying to make improvements to the standing orders for quite some time. One of the things that's been happening is councillors are coming back for 3 or 4 bites of the cherry if they think the tide's not going their way. The standing orders clearly state that each councillor gets to talk once if they wish to. They get to talk once, with the exception of the mover of the motion, who has the ability of a right of reply. So they would get 2 opportunities to talk if they chose to do so. But councillors just can't keep coming back for another crack.
Mr. Mayor, I'm fully aware of the standing orders as you've just explained, fully aware of that. But that's the reason I moved for the procedural motion to allow for a number of times for a councillor to have discussion. And you as the chair of the meeting can control that. If you think that one councillor is speaking too much to turn the tide of an event, you can pull that up as the chair of that and say, we've discussed this enough, we can move on. All I'm asking is that we have the opportunity to speak openly and freely in this discussion.
The standing orders provide that for us. That's what the standing orders are for. So they provide the framework of how councillors express their view. I'll go to the CEO.
Thank you, and through the chair, I'll just read the reasons that a procedural motion can be put. The motion now be put before the meeting. Meeting proceed to the next item. Questions lie on the table. Motion of dissent against the chair's decision for a report or document to be tabled to suspend a rule, so standing orders are not a rule, that the meeting stand adjourned and a point of order. So any councillor can ask the chair to decide on a point of order. If a councillor has failed to comply with proper procedure, is in contravention of legislation, is beyond jurisdiction of the power of a council meeting. So what you're suggesting does not fall within Standing Order 21, which is a procedural motion. Except unless it was that the meeting was adjourned.
So if we adjourned the meeting, we could have the discussion and then...
But you cannot make a decision. But this is your decision-making forum in an open meeting. That's why I'm not clear. So the standing orders are very clear. Obviously, councillors sign up for this, but the standing orders don't allow for the kind of conversation that you're suggesting, councillor.
But adjourning the meeting would allow for that conversation.
So you'd like to, so you're
I'm
requesting that
trying to
the meeting be adjourned, but that means the ordinary meetings stop, everyone goes away. You instead take up the time to have whatever conversation, and then you will come back to the ordinary meeting.
Is that what happens?
Well, that's what you would need to do.
Councillors, Standing Order 18 clearly states each councillor will speak no more than once on each item, except for the mover of the motion who has the right of reply. So that's the whole. This is what we've been trying to deal with for some time, and this issue is no different to any other community issue. As much as I respect the deputation we've received, this is core business for council. I can't see why there would be any basis that this particular matter requires a special provision where councillors can talk as much as they like. That's exactly what we're trying to do with the standing orders, is to actually bring rigour to our discussions, so that when we talk, we make our case in the strongest and most cogent way, and then another councillor makes their case. So that's exactly what we're trying to achieve with the standing orders. The idea that if this one's special, so is every other community request from the community. It's special. So we can't say that this one's special and the others are not. So I don't agree, Councillor Cardew, that we should be trying to set aside our standing orders for this reason. Councillor Cardew.
Thanks, Mayor. Then I'll move a procedural motion that the meeting be suspended.
Okay. Councillor Cardew's moved a procedural motion. We can take that the meeting be adjourned. Those in favour?
Oh, Billy was second, don't you?
No, procedural motion.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Those in favour? That's defeated. So if you can record that, Jackie, Councillor Cardew and Councillor Barty voted for that procedural motion. Yes.
Would you like me just to?
Yeah. So I'll just ask the CEO to explain some more of the practicalities around speaking to items.
Thank you very much. So you do have a formal motion on the floor at the moment. So each councillor is only to speak once to the motion and for no more than 5 minutes, but you do have 5 minutes. The exception is if they have a question, which is per standing order 11. Under question 11, you can ask a question or reply by another councillor or an offer regarding the matter under consideration at the meeting. Questions must be asked categorically and without argument. No discussion is permitted regarding the reply or a refusal to reply. Asking a question is not considered part of speaking during debate. So you do have 5 minutes each, if you wish, and Councillor Barty, who moved the motion, has the right of reply. You can ask questions, but you can't enter into debate about that question.
Thank you. So councillors, we've got a mover and seconder of the officer's recommendation. It was moved by Councillor Barty, seconded by Councillor Spanners. Councillors, I'll ask for either for or against. Councillor Building.
Through the chair. Thanks very much, Drew, for your deputation. Tableland Q Sports is a well-established and strongly supported community organisation that does foster recreation, youth engagement and competitive sport across the Tablelands. I note with interest the organisation's growing membership, which, as I understand, is currently capped due to capacity constraints. With the provision of a dedicated facility, whether it be purpose-built or adapted from an existing site, there is clear potential for further expansion and enhancement to their community offering. The intent to secure a centrally located facility is both timely and strategic. Such an investment would support community well-being, promote inclusivity and contribute to the ongoing development of our regional sport. It's well understood that council holds a number of ageing and underutilised assets, and that rationalisation is necessary. That said, we should not close our minds to the opportunities that community-led projects like this present. Let us ask ourselves, when was the last time council invested in a facility that specifically supported our ageing and disadvantaged or socially isolated residents? While we readily support assets such as playgrounds for our younger demographics, there remains a significant gap in provision for other segments of our community. Yes, the financial implications of whole-of-life costs must be carefully considered, but we must also weigh the significant social value such a facility would deliver. I urge council to remain open to this request and to continue working with officers to identify either a suitable centrally located existing site or a potential greenfield option that may emerge in the future. In doing so, we will unlock the potential for volunteer-led community development, better utilisation of public assets, and the creation of long-term, self-sustaining recreational outcomes. Thank you.
Councillors? Councillor Cardew,
Can I ask a question?
you can ask the question.
Do you have an alternative motion in mind? Because you've said that you want to keep the option of a greenfield site available?
Yes, so I don't, sorry, through the chair, I don't agree with the declining of the greenfield site. I would like to keep that option open. Obviously, council would prefer the utilisation of an existing site without creating another asset, but I think we should still consider the options of that greenfield option.
Yes. Councillors, do we have anyone who would like to talk? Councillor Cardew?
Yeah, look, we've only had one workshop on this, and I believe that there's been lots of toing and froing between officers and Q Sports. Some councillors may or may not be privy to what's been going on, but it seems to me, I mean, I had some firm thoughts in my mind prior to listening to the presentation, and because I am fully aware of council's financial position in regards to our assets and our aging assets and the like, and I tended to agree in supporting recommendation 1, not to consider a greenfield site. But having listened to the deputation, I've changed my view on that somewhat, in line with what Councillor Billner said as well. So I don't want to see it put off the table now. I'd rather see it left on the table for further discussion. So if there's going to be an alternative solution put forward, it may read along the lines that we encourage further work with the club on either exploring a greenfield site or an existing facility. I think more work needs to be done. Listening to the presentation and knowing what's happened in the past, I think it's been very clunky and probably not handled very well. I'm suggesting that I won't support the motion as it stands, and I'll be waiting. If it doesn't get up, be interested in a second, in an alternate motion.
Councillor Spanos?
Yeah, through the chair, I have similar views after the deputation, which I would have liked to possibly have had before this current meeting.
Yeah, look, what I think I'll do, Councillor Spanos, is we've got a motion that's moved and seconded.
I realise that, yeah.
Before we start flagging alternatives.
I'm not suggesting an alternative. I'm just agree with what the general vibe of the room is at the minute.
Does any councillor wish to talk to the motion that's been moved and seconded?
I just want to clarify, does that motion forbade that a greenfield site will be looked at, like if that motion gets through? So we won't be looking at a greenfield site at all?
Yes. And I would suggest it wouldn't be an amended motion if you changed it.
It wouldn't.
It would not be an amended, it would need an alternative motion. So through the chair, for councillors, you might wish to continue to speak for and against this motion, or you might feel that you're ready to vote on it. And in the event that it's defeated, put up an alternative. Or obviously Councillor Cobb might wish to speak more.
No, not at all. No, I'm thinking about an alternative motion now. That's how I'm starting to feel about it.
That's the mover of that motion, and
Yeah.
you're the seconder.
And I'm the seconder.
Yeah, I'd like to look at an alternative motion as well.
So would you like to withdraw? Yep.
I
This
think so,
motion,
yes,
So I
please,
think
yeah.
So, yeah, withdrawing the motion. Yes. So do we have an alternative motion?
Oh,
For councillor Billney?
I think the wording of the second part is almost there. Encourage the club to work with council officers to review suitability of existing community buildings as well as potential greenfield sites to accommodate the club.
And the order there is important, isn't it?
Just a suggestion, so it could say to review suitability of existing Tablelands Regional Council buildings and greenfield sites to accommodate. So it's just be as simple as that.
As long as the intent's the same, yeah.
Yeah, councillor Billney is the mover of the alternative. Do we have a seconder?
Sorry, through the chair, could I get clarity in that you're happy for officers based on that to look at both simultaneously, or would you like us to look at buildings first and then green site? Just to be really clear.
My preference would be buildings versus green sites.
I would think you need to look at both simultaneously, otherwise we're going around in circles.
Shirley, I've also got the idea that if something is removed, then that site might be something that can be utilised. And is that something that can be possibly looked at as well? Like if a building or something was removed, then that site that did have accessibility, that might then be a site that could be looked at to build on as a green site. Yeah. Is that something that we could possibly?
Can I just remind councillors to put questions through the chair?
Excuse me.
Thank you. And it's just around wordsmithing. I don't think we need to go to the extent that we say review the suitability of existing community buildings and exhaust that possibility and then look at. I think it's enough that, because this leaves it broad, because there may be, for whatever reason, that a green site becomes available, so you don't want to go to the process of exhausting one.
Yeah, councillor Carter.
So just to be clear, does this motion include discussions involving greenfield and existing? So the officers are aware, just to be clear, because I don't want to be coming back here another month or 2 months' time or listening to another deputation where officers have only addressed one issue and not the other. It needs to be done as a whole. Are we clear? That's what we asked, that's what the recommendation is? Yeah?
Through the chair, that's exactly the question I was asking, for officers to have a clear understanding of what you're asking us to do. And so that, hence the question.
Councillor Billney.
Through the chair, I think the key word there being "and," so it doesn't preference one or the other.
Yep.
Yeah. So councillor Billney has moved and councillor Cardew had seconded. Anyone else wishing to talk to this one? Councillor Cardew.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, like I said earlier, I was against the greenfield site thing, knowing full well of our financial position, but there's been a couple of good points raised about, like we do need to start looking at our aging and disutilised assets, and if we do, pull down something and there is a greenfield site there, well, maybe that's a good spot for something. Anyway, that's just one of the options. So I'm in favour of exploring that. I'm also in favour of exploring further the possibility of using an existing site. So this opens it up. I just want to make something clear, but myself personally have already tried looking at what existing sites we have available in our TRC footprint to try and accommodate this, and I can't think of any other than Kirrai Hall. So I just and that's been discarded by the club. I just want to just emphasise that an old saying that beggars can't be choosers, and if that's the only site available, then that's the only site available, and there's always the opportunity for the club to take it on, have a look at it, do up a licence or a lease or what have you, and explore that option in the short term. You know, see if it works. See if using that facility works. You know, it may or may not, but give it a go. You know, what else you got to lose? Because you either take on something that you've already got, or you're going to be waiting a long time by the time we get, you know, grants and whatever other funding that's necessary to build a new one. So if I was in the club, I would think that I would like something now, whether it's 100% of what you want or not, give it a go. If it doesn't work, pull it off another greenfield site. Thanks, Lynn.
Councillors, who would like to talk to this one? Okay, we'll go straight to the vote, councillors. So we've got an alternative motion up on the board there. Those in favour? That's carried. Carried 6-1. Very good. Thanks, councillors. That will bring us back to our agenda. So we'll return, councillors, to item 11.1, the Chief Executive Officer report.
Thank you very much, and through the chair. I'm very pleased to present the Chief Executive Officer report for May 2025 Ordinary Meeting of Council. And this report serves as an opportunity for me to provide a monthly update to our community on some key initiatives underway. The TRC Inaugural Agricultural Forum. I would like to acknowledge the work of staff, particularly Blake Rutherford, Shara Dean and Stacey Blackshaw, who helped Batchel, oh, terribly sorry, Stacey, if you're listening, who helped in the planning and the delivery of TRC's first agricultural forum, which was held in Mount Garnet on 12 May. The event was well attended and well supported, including by Divisional Councillor Annette Hayden, our Mayor, Deputy Mayor and other councillors, agencies across all levels of government as well. We welcomed the Queensland Small Business Commissioner Dominic Lamb this week, who met with council officers, including myself, and attending the meeting were also representatives from 2 local chambers of commerce. Council is committing to supporting businesses and growing tourism in and to our region, and to that end we'll be hosting our first Business and Tourism Forum in July. We are delighted that the Queensland Small Business Commissioner will be able to attend the Business and Tourism Forum in July, and we look forward to working with Tourism Atherton Tablelands and the various chambers of commerce in our region to settle the date. I'll be providing more information in the June Ordinary Meeting of Council. Budget preparations for the 25-26 financial year are well developed. As a council, we need to squarely face up to our challenges at the level that those challenges are at, and not where we wish or hope those levels were. Consistent with the Mayor's minute, it will be Council's most challenging budget yet, as we bring 9-figure estimations for the replacement of critical infrastructure and planned water security infrastructure onto our 10-year capital works program. The way the council does business needs to change, particularly as we have a relatively small base of ratepayers in proportion to the services council provides, including utilities and assets such as roads, community businesses, buildings and other infrastructure. The new financial year will be a very busy time as council puts plans in place to ensure financial and operational sustainability, including putting plans in place for all assets that will reach end of life within the next 10 years, reviewing the business structure of the organisation, including the business structure of our utilities like water, and also rationalising council assets. As a council, we're deeply committed to ensuring a strong and vibrant economy for our region and growing our rateable base so that the cost of maintaining infrastructure and services is distributed to an ever-growing base. Our current rateable base, that is the number of ratepayers and utility users, is too low, taking into account our current financial position, the costs of service provision at current levels, and the costs of building and maintaining our critical infrastructure. I've also provided in the report an update on some of Council's key projects. For any members of the community who are interested in those key projects, I've also included a link on the final page where you can access details. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can I have a mover and seconder for the CEO's report? Councillor Stanos and Councillor Vilney. Those in favour? That's carried. 7. Thank you. Okay, councillors, 11.2. Thanks, Councillor Vilney. 11.2, TCAP and M Horn, material change of use for intensive animal industry, free-range chicken farm, egg production, lot 363 on NR 1058, Barter Road, Middlebrook, MCU 24/0015. And I'll pass over to you, Dan, and can't see who else is there.
Jim.
Thank you.
Oh,
Hi, Jen. Yeah, thank you. Over to you, Dan. Thank you.
Councillors, this report relates to a development application for a rotational free-range egg farm over an 81-hectare rural zone property at Barter Road, Middlebrook, located approximately 6 kilometres southeast of Millamilla Township and 1.2 kilometres north of the Wet Tropics World Heritage Area. The proposal involves a staged operation commencing with 300 hens and gradually increasing to a maximum of 4,000 hens within 2 years, whereby birds would be rotated through open air ranges and would be provided with access to mobile roosting shelters. By rotating the birds in this fashion, nutrient buildup would be managed and ground cover would be given time to re-establish, hence minimising potential for off-site impacts such as runoff impacts on water quality and those associated with airborne dust. A large portion of the site is constrained by steep, heavily vegetated terrain, with only around 13 hectares of the site being cleared. The eastern boundary of the site corresponds with the banks of the Beatrice River, which is a higher order watercourse. In terms of the immediately surrounding land uses, most are best described as being rural lifestyle properties, with some hosting small-scale grazing operations. There are 2 adjacent dwellings within a 200-metre radius of the site, and after applying buffering setbacks to address environmental and amenity considerations, approximately 11.2 hectares of the remaining land would be available to rotational farming use. No objections were received in response to public notification of the application, and the application has been assessed against the applicable benchmarks of the Tablelands Regional Council Planning Scheme and the relevant industry guidelines. The officer's recommendation comprises a suite of conditions aimed at ensuring the site is constructively and flexibly managed to ensure that the impacts on the receiving environment and nearby sensitive receptors, including dwellings, is minimised, whilst also ensuring the viability of the operation is not compromised. The officer's assessment concludes that the proposed development is consistent with the planning strategy expressed by the TRC planning scheme for the rural zone, and the application is therefore recommended for approval, subject to reasonable and relevant conditions. Thank you, Councillor.
Thanks, Dan. Questions for officers? Councillor Barty.
Thank you. I've got a couple of questions, Dan.
Yeah.
Huge report. Thank you, guys. That's a lot of work. On page 43, the existing credits, can I just have a bit more information about what that's from?
Through the chair. So what that relates to is the dwelling house credit. So every vacant lot in the LGA has a dwelling house entitlement. So they have a credit for a dwelling house. There's currently not a dwelling on this property. So they hold a dwelling house credit of $6,750. And the charge that's payable for the intensive farming use would only be 5,862, so therefore they have a remaining credit of $888, which they can then credit towards the dwelling at such time as they build one down the track.
Yeah, okay, great. And I just have around biosecurity, is there any increased issues with chickens and things with avian influenza? Is there more like layers coming into how those properties are managed at all?
There may well be,
Yeah.
but Jen's done a pretty thorough job of it. And if you look at some of the guidelines that she's actually, sorry, through the chair, but yeah, so if you look at some of the guidelines that she's actually referred to, so there's like when you do an impact assessable application, you're actually allowed to go outside of the planning scheme and look at things that we call other relevant matters. And there were biosecurity guidelines that were referred to as other relevant matters for this assessment.
Yeah, that's great. And I was just wondering, like with the increase in egg prices, are we seeing more applications of this type?
Through the chair, definitely, yeah, it's getting very popular, so there'll probably be more of this nature.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
Councillors, any more questions for officers? Councillor Cardew?
Yeah, thanks, Ben. I just want to just be reassured, I suppose. My only concerns with this thing, well, not really concerns, but just want to raise a bit here is odour and dust from this experience. And those things have been adequately addressed in your mind. Or do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I'd like to just read out a little bit of the spiel that I've prepared for that. So free-range egg farms typically generate less in the way of off-site impacts compared to traditional shed-based poultry farming operations. So that's your barn-laid and battery egg farms. The main reason for this is that sheds are fitted with large ventilation fans that can spray plumes of dust several hundred metres from the source if suitable control measures aren't put in place, such as vegetative buffering. And then even in lower concentrations, the dust from the sheds carries odour and can impact on residential amenity of adjacent properties, as the dust particles contain biological contaminants such as manure and contaminated litter. While free-range operations include some indoor housing of birds in the early stages of life, most of their time is spent in the open-air ranges, which generate considerably less dust and odour than traditional shed-based systems, because the dust is controlled by ground cover and the odour produced is less than 1% of that produced by mechanically ventilated sheds. In this case, the odour buffer calculation, there's a calculation that's fairly widely accepted in the industry called the S-factor calculation. So what you do is you import a number of different variables, so terrain, vegetation cover, that sort of thing, the location of your sensitive receptors downwind from the odour source, and that estimates the separation distance of 60 to 65 metres from adjacent dwellings would be sufficient to mitigate odour impacts from the brooder shed in this instance. So that's the only shed component of this operation, and the nearest dwelling is located approximately 150 metres to the southwest, so not downwind of the brooder shed in this instance.
Councillors, any more questions for officers? No. Can I have a mover and seconder of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Vardy and Councillor Cardew. Councillor Vardy, would you like to talk?
No, I'm happy to accept the officer's recommendation. Yes, thanks for that.
Councillors, anyone else wish to talk to this one, either for or against? Okay, we've got a mover and seconder. Those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks a lot.
Okay. What we might do, Councillor Spanos, is it is the biggest morning tea is on this morning.
Okay.
So, and it's on right now.
So we'll just break them.
We might take a break right now, and I believe we've got a cake in the kitchen as well. So we'll just break the meeting now, councillors, and maybe come back in about maybe at about 20 past. We've got 15 minutes. Thank you. Okay, councillors, we'll reconvene. Thank you very much. Hope you had some cake. So that brings us to item 11.3, Development Activity Report, Q3 2024-25 financial year. I'll pass over to Dan. Thank you, Dan.
At the ordinary meeting on 31 October 2024, Council endorsed a number of initiatives in relation to the notification of development applications to councillors and development activity reporting to Council. One of the initiatives related to the quarterly reporting of development activity in the region, specifically as relates to the number and type of applications received, housing trends and investment incentives. Council has previously noted the first development activity report summarising data for the second quarter of the 24-25 financial year at the January ordinary meeting. Today's agenda item represents the second of such reports and presents the data collected from January to March this year. In addition to development activity data, the report provides a brief update on other planning, business and customer service related initiatives that have commenced or progressed since the last development activity report was presented to Council. While the Q3 data indicates a drop off in the total number of applications received as compared to the previous quarter, the number of pre-lodgement inquiries more than doubled in the same period, suggesting that Council can likely expect an influx of applications towards the end of the financial year. More positively, the number of lots either approved or endorsed for registration in the quarter totaled 83 lots, as compared to 65 lots in the previous quarter. With respect to dwelling approvals, although still steady, the year-to-date figures may be indicative of a broader downward trend, potentially suggesting a return to pre-pandemic levels. Lastly, Council's infrastructure charges deferral policy facilitated the release of 38 lots in the quarter, which is more than the previous 2 quarters combined, which is 18 lots.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan. Questions for officers? Yeah, Councillor Dillon.
Through the chair, I've just thought about it. Dan, have we started on the planning scheme? This is a little bit outside of this report, I realise. Have we started on the planning scheme for 2026?
So through the chair, so the report does talk about our progress on the planning scheme review. So page 96 of the agenda, it talks about, there's the first couple of dot points there. They talk about, so we're not actually starting work on drafting a new planning scheme. We have to do a statutory review, and we've engaged Wild Plan consultants to do that, and they're progressing with that. So it got a little bit sidetracked along the way because as a variation to Wild Plan's contract, we applied for a couple of grants, one being the LGAQ's Climate Resilient Councils grant. That's for making sort of climate resilience amendments to the scheme. Unfortunately, we weren't successful in obtaining that grant. And the other one that we're still waiting to hear on, and hopefully this one does come through, but it's probably a bit more important than the climate resilience one, is what they call the Scheme Supply Fund. So that's about facilitating improvements to the planning scheme focused on removing regulatory barriers to the delivery of housing and unlocking additional supply, essentially. So it's about how it's focused on housing. So we're still waiting to hear back from that. We should hear that any day now. So that all ties into that planning scheme review project.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan. Any more questions for officers? Can I have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Karju is moving. Seconder, Councillor Hayden. Anyone like to talk to this one? Councillor Karju.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Dan and his team. That's a good report, Dan, and it's interesting and a good overview of where we're at and what's been happening. So, and I think this initiative that we've set in place about this sort of reporting back to council is very, very helpful. So, congratulations. Thank you.
Councillors, anyone else wish to talk to this one? Those in favour? Carried. That's Item 11.4, delegation of statutory powers under Local Government Act 2009 and Local Government Regulation 2012. I'll pass over to you, Yvette. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, councillors. I'm happy to present this report to you as a result of a review of Council TRC's delegations under the Local Government Act and the Local Government Regulation. It was identified that additional delegable powers were required in relation to financial planning and accountability measures, as well as to facilitate procurement within the organisation. Officers are seeking delegation of powers under the Local Government Act to establish a system of financial management, power to regularly review and update financial policies of council, and to carry out a review of the implementation of the annual operational plan on an annual basis. Under the Local Government Regulation, officers are seeking delegation of power in relation to requesting quotes and calling for tenders, how quotes and tenders must be evaluated, and when local governments may proceed with a contract without first inviting tenders. These provisions ensure transparency, accountability, competitiveness and value for money in the procurement process and when dealing with public money, while allowing council to respond flexibly in specific circumstances. The proposed delegations are based on the LGAQ's model delegations for local government. Thank you.
Thanks, Yvette. Questions for Yvette? Councillor Barty?
Yeah, thanks, Yvette. But could you just explain the first column where it says entity power given to, where it says either local government, CEO or delegate? Can you just explain what that means?
Certainly, under the various legislation that we are required to review for our delegations, the provisions of the legislation itself will actually specify who the power is to be granted to, and that could either be the local government of the organisation, it could be to the Chief Executive Officer specifically, or it could be to another delegate. And so we've just replicated exactly who the power is as specified in the legislation within our delegations tables.
Any more questions for Yvette? Can we have a mover and seconder of the officer's recommendation? So Councillor Lang is moving and Councillor Billney. Councillor Lang, would you like to talk on that? Councillors, does anyone like to talk on this one? Those in favour? Carried, that's 7. 11.5, Capital Projects Monthly Report, April 2025. Pass over to Christy to talk to that one. Thank you, Christy.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and through the Chair. This report is for Council to receive and note. It provides an update on Council's program of capital project as of the 13th of May and mainly reflects the project status as of the end of April. Through the Chair, I'm happy to take any questions that councillors may have.
Questions, councillors? Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation and a seconder? Councillor Lang and Councillor Spanos. Councillor Lang, would you like to talk to that? Those in favour? Carried, thank you. 7. 11.6, Business Continuity Management, Policy, Corporate VCP and Pandemic Plan. And that is Sarah. I'll ask you to talk to that, Sarah.
Thank you. Morning, councillors. Before I get to the recommendation, I'd like to note that this week is Business Continuity Awareness Week, so it is a timely opportunity to highlight the importance of being prepared for business disruptions and our ability to continue to deliver critical services to our community. Business continuity management is an iterative process, and when I first introduced this BCM program across council, our maturity level was low. And over several years of embedding continuity practices across the organisation, we can now demonstrate continuous improvement and a maturing approach. We are now actively embracing business continuity as a core part of how we plan, operate and respond. And the revised business continuity management policy, corporate business continuity plan and the TRC pandemic plan are presented today, and they reflect our ongoing commitment to strengthening organisational resilience and ensuring that we can respond effectively to future challenges. So I'm requesting council adopt these documents, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Questions, councillors? Can I have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Bilney and Councillor Hayden seconding. Councillor Bilney, would you like to talk to that?
No, nothing for me. Thanks, Mayor.
Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. That's 7. That brings us to item 2, infrastructure and environment, and it is item 12.2, community project request, Malanda Community Kindergarten bathroom. I'll pass over to you, Shane. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Hello, councillors. This report is for 2 community project requests submitted on behalf of the Malanda Community Kindergarten. The first project proposes the renewal of an existing amenities, and the second proposal is for a new shade sail over the newly constructed playground. The annual expenses for the ongoing maintenance and most operational costs of the request will be incurred by the Malanda Community Kindergarten as per their lease agreement. TRC will see an increase to its asset register and depreciation line by an estimated $780 annually for the life of the shade sail. Renewal CPRs represent a valuable investment in TRC's community infrastructure. The officer recommends the approval of both CPRs and the delegation of the authority to the CEO to finalize all matters. Thank you for letting me present the report. To Mr. Mayor, may we open the floor to questions?
Questions, councillors? Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Spanos and Councillor Bilney. Councillor Spanos, would you like to take it with your recommendation? Thank you. Councillors, those in favour? Carried. Thank you. 7. That brings us to 12.3, community project request again, Yungaburra Community Kindergarten floor renewal. Thank you, Shane.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillors, this report is for another community project request submitted on behalf of the Yungaburra Community Kindergarten. The project proposes the renewal of existing flooring which is at end of life in their leased facility. So the lease agreement between TRC and the Yungaburra Community Kindergarten expired in 30 June 2023. Negotiations for a new 10-year lease are proposed to run until 2033, so they're underway, the discussion with the new lease. The annual expenses for the ongoing maintenance of the flooring will be incurred by the community group in their new lease agreement. So the proposed flooring renewal will improve the safety for both the children and the staff. The renewal of the asset components through the lessee will also remove TRC from potentially needing to renew it as the asset owner. The officer recommends the approval of the CPR and delegation to the CEO to finalize. Thank you. And we open the
questions, councillors?
Thanks, Shane.
Councillor Barty?
So the lessee is responsible for the flooring and not TRC, doesn't it?
So through the chair, we're responsible for the capital of the asset. So the lessee is actually going for grant funding to assist. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Can we have a mover and seconder of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Barty's moving and Councillor Spanos. Anyone wish to talk to this one, councillors? Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. That's 7. 12.4, the Atherton and Malanda Walking Network Plan and Action Plans. I'll pass over to Dave to talk to that one. Thank you.
Thank you. So through the chair, Department of Main Roads provided council with some funding to develop walking network plans for the towns of Atherton and Malanda. These plans are generally for a 2-kilometre catchment area around the CBD of each of those towns, identifying pedestrian traffic producers, sources and where people are going to walk to and from. With the the intent to find out where the missing links are and provide a list of potential projects of places for upgrades that can be used for funding applications from the state or federal governments, and also to help guide decisions made by council themselves.
Thanks, Dave. Any questions, Councillor Barty?
Dave, Yungaburra was also included in that funding. I'm just wondering when their plan will be coming.
Yep, so in the Yungaburra was successful in the second round of planning, second round of funding, sorry, and that plan is currently being developed. Atherton and Malanda are in the first round, so it's these two plans are ahead of Yungaburra.
So when do you think Yungaburra will be?
It's currently being worked on at the moment, so I would say later in this calendar year.
Councillor Billman.
Through the chair. Dave, this is really good to have these mapped out within urban areas. Are we going to be, or have we used this in the budget formation currently underway with the idea of utilising some funds into the areas that have been identified?
Not as an upgrade from an existing grass footpath to a concrete or some other hard surface, no. The footpath renewal program, which you might be referring to, it's more of just replacing like for like.
Right.
So at the moment, that's just been replacing some very poor concrete footpaths with new concrete footpaths or pedestrian ramps and that sort of thing.
But it certainly can be used as a tool going forwards, yeah.
Absolutely.
And subject to endorsement, of course.
Any more questions, councillors? Can I have a mover and seconder of the officer's recommendation for 12.4? Councillor Barty. Councillor Benos. Seconding. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. 12.5. Drinking water quality management plan audit report. You'll talk to that one? Yeah, I'll pass over to Mark. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you. Through the chair, it's my pleasure to present this report to council. As a registered water service provider, Tablelands Regional Council is required by the Water Supply Safety and Reliability Act to prepare and maintain a drinking water quality management plan. Our drinking water quality management plan is a very large document that describes 13 water supply schemes managed and operated by TRC, which includes an assessment of risks to water quality resulting from the catchments where we source our water from, the treatment processes, and our distribution and reticulation networks. And it provides measures to mitigate these risks and ensure supply of safe and compliant drinking water to the community. This plan must be reviewed and approved by the Department of Local Government, Water and Volunteers, and at intervals they require us to review or audit those plans. Recently, we've undertaken a third-party audit of that plan as required by the regulator. The audit was conducted on the 12th and 13th of March, which is my birthday, and by a quality, no, the 13th, and I don't know why I said that, and was conducted by Water Futures, which is actually owned and operated by a very renowned water quality expert in Queensland, and had the objective to verify the accuracy of our monitoring and reporting of our performance to the regulator, assess our compliance with the drinking water quality management plan, and also that the drinking water quality management plan, that the schemes we describe in there actually reflect what we own and operate. So the audit involved a deep dive into 5 of our 13 water supply schemes, and the auditor report concluded that there was adequate compliance between the current version of the drinking water quality management plan in use by TRC and the observations made during the audit. The drinking water quality management plan was found to be fully representing and an accurate reflection of TSE's infrastructure and the way it's operated. No non-compliances were identified and only 4 opportunities for improvement were provided, which are being prioritised for implementation as we speak. A compliant audit funding has been made by the auditor under the Act and on behalf of the regulator. I would like the opportunity to thank and recognise the whole TSE water team, as I believe that this is a significant achievement, especially considering the number of water sources and the large number of aging assets and processes used to secure safe and reliable drinking water to close to 10,000 households over 13 water schemes. Every TSE water employee makes an essential contribution to achieving this result. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councillors, any questions for the General Manager? Can I have a mover and seconder of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Spenos and Councillor Barley. Councillor Spenos.
Yeah, thanks for that, Mark. Through the chair, thanks for that. Very complex business to be looking after, you guys, and appreciate the full effort that you put in. The only thing that I came up with, which I spoke to you at the information centre, was that was that we deal with those the vermin proofing, which was something that I saw that concerned me. But yeah, obviously that's something we're attending to.
So, through the chair, absolutely. That's a couple of those minor improvements that,
of course,
that we need to make.
I read that.
Yeah.
No, thank you very much, Mark. Thank you. That's all I had to say.
Yeah. Councillors? Yeah, look, just following on from Mark's comments there, I think it'd be fairly unusual for a council of this size, of less than 30,000 people, to have 13 supplemented water systems. It was just, when I first heard that, when I first got on the council, I couldn't really believe it, but it's a really big commitment, and it certainly chews up a lot of our resources, money and human. So yeah, if you could pass on, Mark, congratulations from the council to the water team, that would be really good. And Charles, yeah, congratulations to everyone involved. It's a big achievement. All right, those in favour? Carried, that's 7. That brings us to Community and Corporate Services, item 13. 13.1, Financial Report, April 2025. I'll hand over to our Executive Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the title change too, that's great.
Yeah, look, I'd really need to get a list of titles so that...
No, I'll take that one, that's fine. Thank you for receiving the finance report to the end of April. A positive operating position of 5.3 million has been reached to the end of April, with our final rates run completed. The majority of council's revenue has been received for the year. With this in mind, actuals are expected to continue to trend in line with budget expectations across the 2 final months of the financial year. Outstanding rates continue to reduce, with a current balance of 4.2 million. Our outstanding invoices currently stand at 3.7 million. Most of this, though, relates to receiving grant funds and milestones have been reached. So we raise invoices to collect the revenue for those projects. Local and endorsed spend remains strong, with 4.8 million spent for the month. And this month's report, and in addition to the normal finance report, I've also included a second officer's recommendation to reallocate project funds of $17,000 to the Battery Park project. This will support the site investigations as endorsed in the April meeting and council meeting to finalise contaminated lead investigations. This will see the Battery Park project change from $82,741 to $99,741. This movement is a reallocation of unspent funds and does not increase the overall 24-25 capital budget. That's a brief summary, but happy to take questions.
Thank you. Questions for Erica? Councillor Billney.
Through the chair, Erica, I think last month I asked you about the plus 90-day creditors, outstanding invoices. It's up to 220, I don't know if it's in 6 or 8, I can't read it. Is there anything worrying there with collection of those monies that we should know about, or is just?
We do actively chase outstanding invoices. Some of those are also within the property leases and the planning component, and we do have active debt recovery measures in there. So we're working hard to collect the money that's owed.
Any more questions for Erica? Can we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Mr. Councillor, are you moving?
Yeah, no, I'm not.
Question, yeah.
Can we, with the officer's recommendation, split it in two? Deal with each one separately?
I'll take some advice on that. No, we haven't got a mover yet.
So it's not a formal motion.
We haven't got a mover. No.
It's not really the first motion could be suggested.
Yeah, okay. If you want to move a motion, Councillor Cardew, or propose a motion that they be addressed one at a time.
I can do that. I'll move that.
Yeah, maybe addressed individually. Yeah. So Councillor Cardew is proposing an alternate motion, and it is that the motions be addressed individually. So we need a seconder for that. Councillor Vardy seconding that. Those in favour? So that's defeated. Yes. So do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation?
The original?
Yeah, the original, yeah. Councillor Billing and Councillor Lang. Do you wish to talk to that, Councillor Billing? Anyone like to talk to this motion? Councillor Cardew?
Thanks, Mayor. I don't have a problem with item 1. I do have a problem with item 2. That's why I asked for it to be separated, because I now won't be supporting this whole recommendation, because item 2 I don't agree with. At the last meeting, it's not actually reflected in the report, but the motion is, and I didn't support that motion at that time, so I'm not supporting spending more money on that battery park for investigations into contamination issues.
Anyone else like to talk to this before we go to the vote? Those in favour? Carried. That's 5-2. Councillor Spence, Councillor Cardew. Item 13.2, Revenue Policy 2025-2026. Erica.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the revenue policy for 24-25 is presented to you as a guiding document to support our development of the coming budget. If endorsed, this policy will repeal the current revenue policy that's now in place. While there have been some updates made, the intent and the principle of the document remains the same. It's just really. But happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Can we have a mover and seconder for 13.2? Councillor Barty and Councillor Lang. Would you like to talk to that, Councillor Barty? Anyone like to talk to this? Those in favour? Carried, thank you. 13.3, grant program 1 January to 31 March 2025, expenditure and acquittals. Pass over to you, Megan, thank you.
Thanks, Mayor, through the chair. So I'm pleased to present this report to you, councillors. It's an update on the TRC grant program Q3 and represents the expenditure and acquittals. Report. Happy to take any questions.
Councillors, any questions on this one?
Got the money there.
I've got my money left. I sent you an email.
Councillor Billney?
Just to comment, it's a fantastic result to have money going back into the community benefited projects, and you know we exhausted it fairly early in the year, and we tipped in some more. I think it was in January or thereabouts. So it's probably one of council's most successful programs. Yeah, so great work.
Very good. We have a mover and seconder of the officer's recommendation. Councillor Cardew moving. Councillor Billney seconding. Anyone like to talk to that? Those in favour? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that brings us to item 14. We didn't have any notices of motion. 15, business without notice. Right. So that takes us to item 16, which is our confidential section. So I'll just read through the reasons for going into confidential, and we'll need a mover and seconder to go into confidential. That in accordance with section 254J4 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the meeting will close at this part of the meeting to the public for the reasons and matters noted. So I'll just go and read that, the specific reason. So it's item G, negotiations relating to a commercial matter involving the local government for which a public discussion would be likely to prejudice the interests of the local government. And that is for the Silver Valley Road Maintenance, Gravel Resheet and DRFA works, which is item 16.1. So can I have a mover and seconder to go into confidential? So Councillor Billney, Councillor Spanos. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, councillors. Item 16.1, Silver Valley Road Maintenance, Gravel Resheet and DRFA works. Can I have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Barty and Councillor Spanos. Those in favour? Carried, that's 7. Thank you. So councillors, we've got one more confidential item. So this is item 16.2, dry hire of plant and equipment contract extension. So I'd like us to move into confidential. So in accordance with section 254J4 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, The meeting will close at this part of the meeting to the public for the reasons and matters noted. And the reason is negotiations relating to a commercial matter involving the local government for which a public discussion would be likely to prejudice the interests of the local government. So could I have a mover and seconder to go into confidential? Councillor Barty and Councillor Lang. Those in favour? That's carried, that's 7. Thank you. Thank you. Councillors, item 16.2, dry hire of plant and equipment contract extension. Can we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Barty's moving and Councillor Spanos seconding. Those in favour? That's 6. Jackie? Councillor Hayden? Yeah. I'll just record it. Thank you. That's it. That brings our meeting to conclusion, councillors. Our next meeting is scheduled for the 26th of June. Meeting closed.